Council. Sign-in sheet is still at the lectern, Mr. Hedry? Or he'll have it with him. You can sign in if you would like to address council. So we will start as we always do by standing for our prayer for NCH City Council and then the Pledge of Allegiance. God our Father, we are all your servants. We trust in your mercy and love. We trust also in your guidance. Direct the meetings of this council of North College Hill to make good decisions for all the people who live in our city. Give all the members of this council wisdom and insight to know what is best for our city. Help us to be fair and just in all our decisions. Bless us all to do the very best we can. With your help and guidance, we pray this in your name. Amen. Amen. Call this meeting to order. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So again, welcome. I know it's cold outside, but not too bad in here, so we'll get about the business of the city. Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Ms. Orm.
Here.
Ms. Gaston.
Here.
Ms. Chichester.
Here.
Ms. Alexander.
Here.
Mr. Wilson.
Present.
Mr. Davis.
Here.
Ms. Underwood.
Here.
Thank you. You have tonight's agenda.
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Mr. President,
Ms. Gaston.
I'd like to second that.
Motion by Ms. Zorb with a second by Ms. Gaston to accept tonight's agenda as amended. Any discussion? Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Ms. Orm.
Yes.
Ms. Gaston.
Yes.
Ms. Chichester.
Yes.
Ms. Alexander.
Yes.
Mr. Wilson.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Ms. Underwood.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you. We have the minutes from the February 3rd meeting.
Mr. President,
Ms. Chichester.
make a motion, we accept the minutes.
Mr. President,
Mr. Wilson.
I would like to second that.
Motion by Ms. Chichester with a second from Mr. Wilson to adopt the minutes from the February 3rd, 2025 meeting. Any discussion? Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Ms. Orm.
Yes.
Ms. Gaston.
Yes.
Ms. Chichester.
Yes.
Ms. Alexander.
Yes.
Mr. Wilson.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Ms. Underwood.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you. That brings us to communication. Mr. Hedger, do you have any communication this evening?
Thank you, Mr. President. No, I do not.
Thank you. Then we'll move on to council committees, starting with City Community Development and Recreation.
Mr. President,
Mr. Wilson.
City Community Development had a meeting on, what was that? It was at February the 10th. We talked about the fireworks show. We talked about other possible suggestions for several events. And that was it.
When is your next meeting, sir?
So our next meeting will be
March the 8th. March 10th.
is that the next meeting? The
March 10th.
March 10th, sir.
At 7 o'clock.
Is it 7 o'clock?
Thank you. Next is Budget and Finance.
We have to reschedule the Budget and Finance Committee meeting, and I'm looking to reschedule possibly for next Monday on the 24th or tentatively the 25th, depending on if it works for all other committee members' schedule.
Thank you. Rules and Public Policy.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our meeting was on Monday, February 10th at 6 p.m. We talked about going back to our 1-hour meetings for the committees, and we decided that we would reconsider that or bring that back up in April or May, just kind of to monitor to see how the committee meetings are continuing to play out, continuing to go. We talked about the recommendations from the Planning Commission and potentially meeting because they want to meet with all of council. So it was suggested that we potentially meet with them on February 24th, and I need to follow up with the city manager to see if that is possible or if that's a feasible day. We also talked about digitizing the records. I think that we did have a company available for that we had suggested for, and I think that we're just going to go ahead and just go with that company just so that all of our records can be digitized and just make it easier for people to access. We also talked about the Charter Review Commission. The first meeting will be held on February 26th from 6:30 to 7:30. And that is about it. Our next meeting will be Monday, March 10th at 6 p.m.
Thank you. And public safety?
Thank you, Mr. President. We had an update from the chief of police. He kind of gave us some information about a red light blitz that they had conducted over the course of the last month. He says that they're down 4 officers. They're working on that. They're also almost complete with renovating the police department, and they would like to invite people to come in and take a look at that. We received an update from the fire department as well. We received a report from Chief Plackey. The life pack monitors, I think that's what they're called, they're installed in the fire trucks or on the ambulances. We briefly discussed the levy renewal that's coming up. That's something we need to kind of jump on top of. We need to work with administration on that. As far as public works updates, the first streets that we're going to work on are Galbraith and Oak Knoll to get the repaving done for those 2 streets. Our next meeting will be Monday, March 10th at 6:30 p.m.
Thank you. Next, we have ad hoc reports. Does anyone have an ad hoc report to share this evening?
Mr. President,
Ms. Orr?
we will be canceling and probably rescheduling the tree board committee that was supposed to be tomorrow. We have a quorum issue.
Thank you. Any other ad hoc reports?
Mr. President.
Mr. Wilson?
Yeah, so I was able to attend the OKI meeting for February the 13th. It was very, very informational. We have North College Hill has an opportunity to take advantage of some funds that has been sitting out there. Apparently, we didn't have someone there to take advantage at the time, but now we do. And there are some funds that Hamilton County has for our area, and I am looking into the next steps for us to take advantage of that. So that's my ad hoc report for OKI.
Thank you. Any other reports? Hearing none, we'll move to the administrative reports. Good evening, Madam Mayor. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. I had a couple of things. The first thing that I did receive a registration form from for the 2025 Tree City USA Awards Program. There are 4 slots available. 2 have already been filled. If anyone would like to attend, the deadline is March 27th, where we have to turn in the names. I know the president of the tree board, she has said she was going, and our city administrator, if she can make it, she'll be there. So if you would like to attend, let myself know, or Ms. Dukes-Dean, so we can get your registration paid. I also would like to send not necessarily my condolences, but to keep them in my prayers, the families, Pikeville, Kentucky, and the surrounding areas with the floods and everything that's going on there. I would like to give a shout out to our Public Works for a fantastic job removing the snow. On Sunday, they were actually down 2 of their employees, so they did it with 2 men. So kudos out to them. Additionally, we are still looking for a Public Works Director. You can find out that information on the city website. We are getting ready to add it to Indeed, and it's on the Ohio Municipal League website. CIC, the meeting will be here this Thursday, so far this Thursday at 6:30 p.m. If you can make it, come out to that. And I have one final thing, as everyone knows. Oh, no, I didn't. I have 2 other things. Ms. Javette Williams gave, you guys probably already have it, the pawpaw, the upcoming events. Ms. Zorb, you can correct me. Is this like a newsletter?
It's just a brochure to.
A brochure, okay. It has like
Bring
building
awareness.
community, upcoming events, year of the pawpaw tree, fostering, permanent home planting. So it's very informational if you're interested in pawpaw. I understand it's not an acquired taste for me, but maybe for others. So, and the final thing I have is, we all know there's been some litigation with the Cincinnati Enquirer. So, once we got an update, it is our due diligence to bring that update to you. So, we received, I believe last week, in the Court of Appeals, the First Appellate District, Hamilton County, Ohio, is the State Cincinnati Enquirer, Division of Gannett GP Media, who's the relator, versus the City of North College Hill. And they filed with the courts, and it states, in response to this court's order to show cause of January 23rd, 2025, the relator states that counsel for relator has been diligently working with counsel for respondent to complete the production of the required request. When production is complete, relator will file a motion with this court seeking an award of attorney fees pursuant to RC 149.43. And it's respectfully submitted by John Greiner, who is their attorney. The certificate of service signed, it says, I certify that on the 5th day of February 2025, the foregoing response of relator to order to show cause has served via electronic email pursuant to Civic R5B2F upon the following counsel of record, and it's William Dieters. So, in a nutshell, what they're saying is that we have provided them with everything that they need, and once it was filed on the 5th. So they're working with us for any other information that they may need or may want. So in all they are pursuing are their attorney fees. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Anyone have any questions for the mayor?
Mr. President?
Ms. Zorb?
Actually, I have 2 questions. Madam Mayor, you mentioned the slots for the Tree City. Do you know the dates for that?
The Tree City, I'm sorry,
I think it was March 27th.
you have to register by, but the actual event is April 24th at the Wyoming Civic Center.
Thank you. And then my next question, I saw Ms. Dukes-Dean pass out paper to the citizens, but I don't think council has
You can-
copies of
is
those.
What I just read,
Yeah,
we can get you a copy.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the city administrator's report. Ms. Dukestein.
I just wanted to thank the council members for getting their sunshine laws to me. I know that some of the more seniors, council members have completed their sunshine laws training, but I'm trying to make sure that we have it marked in your files for audit purposes. So if you're able to retrieve the proof of that, then please do send that to me. I know it's laborsome, but I was able to get mine, and I just searched mine because I took mine a while ago, so I know you'll be able to grab it. And then, Mr. Graver, I hate to call you up. I'm not sure if you're supposed to take it or not. So,
I was going to take it. I haven't done it yet.
okay. So if you are required, I don't know if you're required or not, but if you are, can I have your certificate and I can send you
yes.
the link? I'm not rushing you, just asking gently if we can get that.
Yep, send that to me. Thank you.
Okay. And then I informed you all via email that we are on a delay for the Oak Knoll project. We were going to start this week, but the weather has been preventative for us being able to start because of the frigid temperatures and the ground is so cold. It just would not be useful. They're working with the first part of the phase of the project is water mains, and it's just too cold to do anything with that. Would cause more harm than good. So if we had started this week, we would have still been able to be on track. Now they are working a completely new schedule for Oak Knoll and the streets to follow because of the inclement weather. And then the IRS audit. So they go hand in hand with Paycor. And I just wanted to read to you an email that I received. It says, after review of our tax team, they have advised the following. The normal line 7 on the 941 return is for when the taxes from a certain tax do not match. And so ours didn't match. It is a Paycor glitch. We were able to confirm that. And so as we had said in some prior meetings, there have been a lot of kind of floating ideas as to why we were in the condition we were for the IRS audit. And so when we correct that line, we had $9,000. You would have seen it in the budget. It was $9,000 on that line. It shouldn't have been, but that was something that Paycor did as a glitch. We will be filing a amendment and remove that. We'll probably get that back, and then we'll probably get that back, and then we will correct every year after that. So the problem is when it messes up one year, the years are linked, so they were auditing just 2022, but quite naturally, because 22 is wrong, probably 23 is wrong also. But filing the amendment for 22 will correct 23, and we will be set back on path for 24, I'm sorry. So that is it. Oh, and then I was going to say something about the Inquirer, but I think it's covered. I had a meeting with them last week. And we're in the phase of now, they're asking for additional documents. I don't have any problem working with them to provide them what they're asking for. They are submitting records requests, but to be honest, I am giving them what they want outside of the records request because it is public documents. If you ask, I don't mind supplying them within reason and just making sure that we're redacting appropriate information to, make sure that people's personal information is not put out there. And then the Iron Mountain contract for the digitizing for your records, we push out there for a committee. I was able to get the legislation and put the quote together, and so that should be in your committee soon so we can make a decision about that. And that is all for me.
Mr. President.
Ms. Orr.
So, Ms. Dukestein, I have a couple questions. So I'm not sure I followed you on the $9,000 for the IRS audit.
Yeah.
You said you'd file something and we'd get that back. So are you saying that Paycor has $9,000 that we get back?
No,
wasn't following that.
Paycor paid something to the IRS out of and put it in the line item is line 7 on our tax return, and it's the 941 form. And so we looked like we paid, well, we did pay IRS $9,000, and that's not correct. So they will be returning it, and we will put that line at 0, and then we will set right forward.
So I just want to say this again. So we did pay the IRS $9,000 that we should not have, so they're going to give it back to us.
Yes.
Good. Okay, I have one more question.
Sure.
So from the our meeting on February the 3rd, you had stated that the Hinkle report was complete and you'll be filing it soon. So I'm assuming since it's been 2 weeks, that's been filed?
No, it hasn't. Our deadline, I was going to say something about it, but I decided not to, but I'm more than happy to answer questions about it. So there are 2 things that are linked to filing a clean Hinkle, and one is we have the BWC grant that we received on behalf of the firefighters. So they sent us notice saying that we owe them $40,000 back because we had not filed all the paperwork. I've been in close contact with Chief Plackey, and he has gotten everything that we need, and we have gotten a clean bill of health to say we do not owe that money back, but we need an actual letter from them saying that we do not owe them, and they need it in writing to put with the Hinkle. And then also the IRS, what I needed the court submission for the Inquirer as well, to say that there's no more suit out there that also goes with the Hinkle. So those 2 things we had to add because Hamilton County wants to make sure that we are not in any litigations. So I have everything that I need. I have to communicate with, or our finance manager has to communicate with Robin Roush, and then we should be okay from there. So it's not delayed. It's not due till March 15th, but we have everything we need in step to be on time. If we can file early, we will. If not, we'll at least file on time.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Dukestein. So the next item we have on here is a bonus presentation. Ms. Dukestein, you want to take that away and turn it over to your special guest?
I just want to make sure that you guys know why we're doing this. We've had some very threatening things for our elected officials. This building doesn't actually have the outline to be safe. We keep this door open back here so people can enter, citizens can enter our meetings. So we needed to do this anyway, but it has been very timely to making sure that we keep everyone safe. And with that said, Ben has worked really hard on the presentation, and I'm going to let him present to you some safety measures so that if we ever have an incident, that we can make sure that everyone is safe.
Thank you, sir.
Can I pass these out? If you step up there to the record, that would be great.
If we need an extra copy, I'll share with Mike, and you guys can have my copy if someone needed it.
I was going to pass these.
I'll share with
Do
you.
you all need copies?
I don't
No,
need it,
I said
no.
if someone in the
If somebody
audience
needed a
wanted one,
copy,
we'll
we
give
were
up.
giving one up.
Ben,
No, you're fine.
there you go.
I think we have this one in the pack.
Yes, we do.
Meeting happens, I'm hiding.
It's really going to be in my way when I'm hiding behind you.
It's always been my plan. Should have let you in on it.
Good evening, everyone.
Do I need to be concerned? I need to leave.
First thing I would like to introduce is the Patron Code of Conduct. And let me set my timer. I want to make sure I don't go over. Patron Code of Conduct reads, "It is expected of every visitor to act in a professional and courteous manner according to the North College Hill Code of Conduct. Any individual contributing to a disruptive, unwelcoming environment, including harassment, verbal or nonverbal abuse, may be required by staff and/or elected officials to leave the facility. Refusal to follow the guidelines will result in the authorities being notified. Anyone with questions regarding NCH Patron Code of Conduct policy can speak with the city administrator or clerk. Thank you for your cooperation." The reason for that, Ms. Dukestein has already let everyone know that we have been running into a few, I would say, light snags. We have an open door policy, which unfortunately has been a little too open door. So we must rely on this to now conduct ourselves accordingly. Now, for the other part of this is the safety, which is on the second page. If everyone would like to turn to the second page, we have a small outline or map highlighting fire routes. It is required of everyone to know where at least 2 emergencies are, and because we're in the community room and we're all here together, I would like to point those out very briefly. This would be known as door D. I will have these labeled later on, but right now this is one exit. And right here is the second exit. In case of an emergency and there's a fire or some way we need to evacuate the building, these are the 2 places that we will go, this door or that door. In case there is a tornado, we will proceed through the kitchen to the hallway, which is the safest and central location of this building. Are there any questions so far?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes.
On the key snafus that you had, did you all report it in collaboration with Chief Cheney?
Well, maybe I should tell what the snafus were. The snafus basically weren't anything that was life-threatening. It was basically a case of maybe a delivery that didn't get through, maybe somebody that came in, basically piggybacking, but nothing as of a serious matter. After working downtown for over 15 years, I made sure to keep a very good eye on that. Briefly, with the council's permission, I would like to give a small scenario on why I'm so adamant about security. When I worked for a law firm downtown, there was an occasion where a woman wanted to see her husband, and the receptionist, thankfully not me, said, "Okay, that's fine. He's right back there." What she didn't know was she was carrying a knife and proceeded to attempt to murder him while in the building. Needless to say, that's one of the reasons I'm very dogmatic about security. We cannot take it for granted. We all want to go home to our families. We all have families to go to. So it's very important that we keep that in mind. And with that, I just want to reiterate, let us all remember the most common security or emergency practices, which is call 911. If you see an emergency, if you smell something unusual, please make sure to use 911. It's easy to say, and you know it now, but in the event of an emergency or adrenaline's kicking, you will not be able to remember 1, 2, and 3. So please make sure that you do the following and remember 911. Help anyone that you're able to help as long as you're not putting yourself at risk. If you find something unusual, please report it immediately. And I mean, even if it's the smallest thing, you never know. A little small gas leak can make a big difference. And with that, I would like to thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Torrey.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Ms. Dukestein.
to follow Mr. Torrey's presentation, there will be some subsequent trainings. We talked to the police department. We have a Knox box so that if they needed to get in, if we had an intruder. We also would want to go to one of those spaces, particularly the one where the tornado, and lock ourselves in if we had an intruder. And there actually have been some incidences where I have had to escalate up to the police department. Ben wasn't a part of that, but yes, we have had a little bit more than some light, what did he say, light snacks. So, and I've done that on your behalf. We work together to make sure that everyone's safe. The safety measures were put in place for the building, but also extended to you all, especially because you are elected officials, and then that door stays open. Our backs are to the door, you can see, but I encourage you, like, even if we have an incident of, somebody who needs some resuscitation, we're gonna go through some light training to make sure that we're just in the process of organizing that. We also are working with Miss Colleen Ellis to make sure that the seniors are safe during the day, if they had some intruders or whatever. So I just wanted to give you the full scope. It's not just you all, but you all are included because some of the things have been concerning you all, and we want to make sure that you're as safe as possible. We're all as safe as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the Law Director's Report. Mr. Dieters is not with us this evening. That moves to the Finance Director's Report, and she is not here either. So we'll move to call of members, starting with Ms. Zorb.
Thank you, Mr. President. In honor of Black History Month, and as a result, I work at a pediatric hospital. I borrowed an article from the archive that I would like to share with everyone. It is honoring Clarice Reed, MD. Clarice Reed was born and raised in segregated Birmingham, Alabama. She went on to become just the third African American to graduate from UC College of Medicine in 1959. Reed completed her combined pediatric residency at the Jewish Hospital and Cincinnati Children's Hospital in 1962. She was Cincinnati's only African-American pediatrician in private practice from 1962 to 1970. In 1969, Reed became Director of Pediatric Education at the Jewish Hospital. Before leaving Cincinnati in 1976, Reed worked with the Baby's Milk Fund, Catherine Booth Hospital, and Hamilton County Welfare Department, and was a pediatric consultant to the Ohio Department of Health. In 1976, she was appointed Chief of the Sickle Cell Disease Branch and Coordinator of the National Sickle Cell Disease Program. Reed held these dual roles in 1994, and she was appointed Director of the Blood Diseases and Resources at the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute. She held this position until her retirement in 1998. In 1995, Reed was inducted into the Cincinnati Pediatrician Historical Society's Hall of Fame of Honor. I'd just like to share that with our people. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Zorb. Next is Ms. Gaston.
I just wanted to shout out North College Hill EMS. My family had an incident this afternoon, and they came in. They were so kind. They were prompt, and they were able to help my grandma. So I just wanted to publicly say thank you to North College Hill Fire Department and EMS. And that's all that I have. And also, I hope everyone enjoyed Love Day this weekend. That's all.
Thank you. Ms. Chichester.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to just say welcome to the residents or the citizens who are here today. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for braving the weather and coming out. In regards to safety, thank you, Ms. Dukestein and Administration Ben, for making that a priority. And also, I wanted to shout out to our residents in Leakin Heights who stood up for hate speech and bullying. It will not be tolerated anywhere in our society. And wanted to say God bless that community, and may they get through this and stand stronger together. And, there is a community baby shower coming up this Saturday. I posted it up. I'm going to get Christian to post it on the city website as well, if possible, if we can. If not, check that out. Check out my social media, and you can see where that is. I don't have all the details off the top of my head, and I don't want to misquote anything or give anyone a wrong time. I thought that was a great event for moms to be. And that's it for me.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Alexander.
I'd like to thank Public Works for all the work that they did through this snowstorm. I'd like to thank administration and Ben for giving that wonderful presentation. Happy Black History Month. And also, I would like to invite you all to North College Hill's Black History Month showcase. That is February the 28th. The admission is free. They're looking for acts still. They're going to be doing music from the decades, the 20s up until present, along with teachers and staff and students and members of the community. And it looks like it's going to be a great time, and it's a free event. Let's support our children and our teachers that are going to be there. And you might see a Supreme or two there. That's it.
Ms. Alexander, you did not give a location for that.
Oh, I'm so sorry. It is at the PAC at the high school, February 28th at 6:30. Once again, free.
Thank you. Mr. Wilson.
Yes, Mr. President. First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody of North College Hill, elected officials, the mayor, city manager, and our residents. I truly appreciate everyone that put in the effort to make North College Hill what it is. The recreation department is working on putting together some groups to initiate our plans for movie in the parks, party in the park. We would like some participants from the city. Anyone interested in participating in our groups, our focus groups, so we can get this done, please email me at vwilson@northcollegehill.org. That's vwilson@northcollegehill.org. And just leave me a message that you're interested in participating, and we'll move forward from there. Thank you, Mr. President. That's all.
Thank you. Mr. Davis.
Alrighty, on February 13th, February 13th, last week, Motion NCH met right here, and we held a gift conversation, because the most infrequent conversation we generally hold is about our gifts. We tend to be deficiency obsessed, and instead of focusing on deficiencies, weaknesses, what we don't do, the things that we don't do may not go away. But we gain more leverage, and we try to learn how to gain more leverage when we focus on the gifts we bring, the things that we bring to the table, and capitalize on those things. We're trying to, as we try to search for what brings about the highest achievement and success. And furthermore, I'd like to thank members of the business community that came out. The proprietor of Shop 26, the beauty salon over there, the Pluto's Cafe, the Cafe on Galbraith, and Mr. Clarence Pruitt. He's a music teacher in the community. I like to thank them and thank everybody that's coming out. Next meeting will be March 13th, 2025, 6 p.m. here, and please tap in. The community revolution is already in progress. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Ms. Underwood.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just like to say thank you to my colleagues, and also thank you to the administration and employees of the city of North College Hill for the beautiful flowers, and as well as the cards. My mom died a few weeks ago, and it was unexpected, and that is one of the most difficult things that you would ever have to deal with. And everyone was so kind, and I truly appreciate that. I appreciate the kindness, I appreciate the calls, and I appreciate the grace. So I just wanted to say thank you to everybody.
Thank you, Ms. Underwood.
Mr. President.
Ms.
sorry.
Dukestein.
I meant to say this. Council members, please check your mailboxes. You have gifts in there. sent an email, but I want to remind
did.
you all.
All right, next item on the agenda is remarks from the audience. Mr. Hedger, who's signed in, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, we have Peg Albert.
I would just like to give a shout out to some very important guests who's here tonight. I don't know if any of you watched Craig McKee on Homefront, and last week he did a story on Guitars for Vets, and 3 of the members of the DAV from here were on the show. And I did email one of them, and they said they will give autographs, but I thought it was just really wonderful that they made the news. So congratulations.
Awesome.
Thank you, Ms. Peggy.
Mr. President,
Ms. Orr.
may I tag on to that? I'd also like to do a shout out to Guitars for Vets, because I know a lot of they kind of hang out with Javette, who is on our tree commission. So a lot of our tree parties, they come and celebrate with us. So thank you for that also.
All right, Mr. Hedger, we have anyone else?
Yes, Mr. President. Next, we have Kathy Curtin.
Kathy Curitan, 6718 Devonwood Drive. I wanted to send my condolences to you, Ms. Underwood. Losing a parent isn't easy. Just have one quick question. I want to start with you because you have the easiest of all of the questions. I realize that next Tuesday is the start for the charter review meeting. Next Wednesday, the 26th? Got it. I just wanted to confirm that council still needs to make their nominations. I don't know if that was a part of the agenda this evening. Okay, great. All right, so let's get to business. So, Ms. Duxstein, good evening. How are you? I actually am so thankful for Ms. Janetta Anderson. Her transparency with me lately is super appreciated, as many residents of this city have asked numerous questions on the budget. Today, January 18th, I received an email from her, and this email was the expense report for January 2025. On this report, it references a line item, January 30th, 2025, in the amount of $3,850, and it references asbestos removal. I am going to take that as an understanding that someone somewhere have given the authority for the city of North College Hill to execute and move forward with the asbestos removal. That's my first question. Second question I have is relative to the Inquirer. Thank you for providing that. Although that is public record, we can see that at any particular time, those updates, the attorneys are required to do so. But I'm just curious, what caused the significant delays? I think they started to ask the city and administration specifically right around the time the firefighters decided to threaten to walk out. So what caused almost 10, 11 months for us to not be able to respond to public records requests? That's also for you, Ms. Duxstein. Also for you, Ms. Duxstein, can you confirm if the city, when I'm filing my personal taxes, I use, for my personal taxes, a certified public accountant. So is the city not utilizing that resource as well? Or are we just trusting the advice from the finance director?
30 seconds.
Yes, sir, to fulfill that. Talking fast. And then last question is, does this building have a doorbell, right? Because I don't know how much traffic you would get on any given day. I thought I saw a doorbell out there. I also thought that doorbell had a camera. So all of these questions are for you this evening. So can you confirm, does this building have a doorbell? Thank you. Oh, and I just want to add one more thing, if I can. From June 2024, I have a document that is made public I want to make reference, Mr. Graver, really quickly, and I love your beard. My goodness, I know your wife is loving that, but I love
Please
your
go
beard.
ahead.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. So I'm sorry. I have a document here that states that the asbestos removal. We have a quote for the renovation. It says it was $20,736. The line item for the expense report from January says $3,850. That's a significant variance. Can you explain between the two? Thank you. I'm sorry for going over.
So yes, we do have a doorbell. Yes, there is a camera, but we have people have been let in because they seemingly look like they have a friendly face, but they are not releasing friendly fire. So we've had some issues with, we don't know everyone. Ben primarily gets the door. My office is right there in the front. If he's not here, I will get the door. So yes, we do have a doorbell, but just because people look like they're on friendly terms does not necessarily mean that they are. And so we've been remiss to kind of invite, it hasn't always even been citizens. And then in terms, I'll go back up from the questions. The taxes that were being filed as a part of our Paycor package when we solidified them as a contract or a vendor for the city, they were filing our taxes. And that is why, and it is not uncommon to have that part of our income taxes submitted by the company that does our income, our payroll. So that is how that kind of got off track. We are now moving it. We have a different payroll software and organization that we go through. And we are, Ms. Anderson, along with an outside consultant, which we haven't solidified yet. We will be working to file the taxes if it becomes more than Ms. Anderson can handle. And then you said something about, the significant delays with the public records request. So that was actually before my time. But what I think was happening is there were so many things charged in the city. And by the time we made the administration and those of us remembered that time, made decisions, there was not a city administrator in to satisfy some of those records requests. Some of them were being filtered through Mr. Dieters. Some of them were going through the police department. There were various. I mean, the list is super, super long. And like to date, I don't mind circulating an email. Like the Inquirer had said that they didn't get some of the documents, but I actually have an email where they had opened the document and received it, and it was the main requester, which is Ms. Hodges. So that was after I came later on. So, but the 10-month delay, I think, was not having someone in position. There was a extra layer of checks and balance to make sure, hey, did this get submitted? Did that get submitted? Did you actually receive what was submitted to you? I cannot trace down specifically why or what happened during that time because I wasn't here, but I actually just looking back at it, I do know that the office in this building were very much trying to comply. And so why it didn't translate over to the Inquirer, I'm not sure. I would think that had something to do with us having a vacancy and more prioritization of other things. And then the expense of the asbestos removal that you're referring to, that is not for 1500 Galbraith. That expense goes to the police department because the police department had some asbestos. It's either police or fire. One of them had some, it was police. They had some asbestos. Now, unless asbestos you don't have to remove it if it's intact and not dispersed. I cannot remember why they decided to remove it, but they just, as an extra precaution, wanted to get it out of the building. We've done air quality checks for both mold, asbestos, and they have had a clear bill of health. Some of the police officers, and I want to say this on record because Cheney has come back to me several times to say that they were wanting to make sure that their air quality in the building was top notch, and it has been every test that we've run. It's been an outside company, super inexpensive, under $500, have done the air quality test. So the line item that you see is that it's not the 1,500 building. And so that kind of answers your question on the 624, which I didn't answer that because the answer for the expense report that Ms. Anderson gave kind of explains why it is that you see that June 24th charge or whatever you were asking about that. Oh, that explains the discrepancy of why because that was for the 1,500 building. This is for the $3,000. Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Hedger, anyone else?
No, Mr. President.
All right, then we'll move to legislation.
We have third reading, ordinance number 8, 2024, an ordinance to amend and establish salaries and staffing levels for the city employees pursuant to the requirements of section 3.06 of the City of North College Hill Charter and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb?
I'd like to make a motion to amend this document.
Mr. President.
The motion is to,
I'm sorry, Mr. President, just point of order, I'm sorry. Does it have to be untabled first? Remember you guys tabled it? You should
We
probably
tabled
make-
it till this meeting.
Yep. You should probably make a motion to bring it back to the floor and then make your amendments.
That's fair. Would you like to do that?
I don't know what that verbiage sounds like.
I don't know either.
I'd like to make a motion to bring ordinance 8, 2024 back to the table. Back from the table? Back
Back to the floor.
back to the floor?
Mr. President,
I'm winging this.
oh,
Ms. Ms. Alexander.
I'll second that.
Motion to bring ordinance 8, 2024 back to the floor by Ms. Zorb, second by Ms. Alexander. Any discussion? Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Ms. Zorb,
Yes.
Ms. Gaston,
Yes.
Ms. Chichester,
Yes.
Ms. Alexander,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Underwood.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Ms. Zorb.
I'd like to make a motion to change the verbiage on the Public Works line item under where it says 2 permanent. I'd like to change that to 2 seasonal.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood.
Ms. Zorb, I'm not sure where you're talking about.
Page 2, middle of the page.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Is that supposed to?
All right, we have a motion on the floor to amend ordinance 8, 2024, line item on page 2 under Public Works, changing the word permanent, where it says 2 permanent, to seasonal, saying 2 seasonal. That motion is by Ms. Zorb.
Mr. President,
Ms. Chichester.
discussion first?
I think Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood.
I think it has to be seconded before discussion.
Yes, I will bring it to discussion.
Okay, Mr. President, second.
Okay.
All right, motion to amend ordinance 8, 2024, changing the word from permanent to seasonal under Public Works by Ms. Zorb, second by Ms. Chichester. Any discussion?
Yes.
Ms. Chichester.
Just questioning, because it wasn't in our original ordinance, and it wasn't in the editing of when we made the motion to amend it last meeting, is it supposed to be seasonal and not permanent? That's only because it wasn't in the.
Mr. President,
Ms. Orb?
without going into too much detail, because this was discussed in executive session, it is based on the contract of these individuals. And it was brought to us by the city administrator during executive session.
Okay. That's all I wanted.
This isn't a Mary Jo made-up thing.
Mr. President.
Ms.
I just
Chichester?
wanted for clarification, because we discussed it and it wasn't saying that anyone, I just needed clarification.
Any other discussion?
No, sir.
Yeah, Mr. President.
Mr. Wilson?
I'm just gonna say here, on the end of Ms. Chichester too. I'm trying to remember when did we? I mean, I remember going into the meeting, but I don't remember. Was it? Yeah. I mean, it's gonna have to go back in too far, Mr. President, because I don't remember this myself.
Mr. President, we did talk about this in executive session, and the agreement that was made was that the positions would be changed to seasonal.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Any other discussion? All right, motion to amend ordinance 8, 2024 on the Public Works line item, page 2, from 2 permanent to 2 seasonal by Ms. Zorb, second by Ms. Chichester. Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Ms. Orb?
Yes.
Ms. Gaston?
Yes.
Ms. Chichester?
Yes.
Ms. Alexander?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
No.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Underwood?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-1.
Okay, we've had a third reading.
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb?
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt ordinance 8, 2024, an ordinance to amend and establish salaries and staffing levels for city employees pursuant to the requirements of section 3.06 of the City of North College Hill Charter and declaring an emergency as amended.
Mr. President,
Ms. Chichester?
I second her motion.
Motion by Ms. Zorb to adopt ordinance 8, 2024 as amended. Motion by Ms. Zorb, second by Ms. Chichester. Any discussion? Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Ms. Orb?
No.
Ms. Gaston?
Yes.
Ms. Chichester?
Yes.
Ms. Alexander?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Underwood?
Yes.
Motion passed 6-1.
Thank you. That is all we have for legislation this evening. Next is further remarks from the audience as it pertains to this legislation. All right, next item on.
So thank you so much. I'll be very brief. So I just want to make it known that part of the reason citizens are very vocal about this is that it's public record. So let's just talk about it. Our city administrator makes $110,000. Our law director is making $54,000. This is not money that we're just coming up with. This is our taxes. And so that's why these questions are being asked. That's why we actually are requesting, sometimes it turns into a demand because we don't get an answers to our questions. And we would really hope that going forward, any movement of this city, that citizens are factored in. I hear that there could be other things that could be happening outside of these council chambers. And as an administrator, as a mayor, as a law director, and sometimes even as council, you all have the authority to do certain things. But if it's not an urgent request, if it is not something where it is a critical demand, we would hope that you all would continue to, or maybe start to rather, factor in citizens. Even when it comes down to, there have been discussions, and let me not even talk about that because we're talking about this legislation, but let's just consider our citizens, our salaries, and you live here too, all of us live here, but let's just remember that the significance of these salaries are huge. This is not any chump change. In fact, you probably make more than probably many of the citizens who live right here in North College Hill. So I would just hope that in the future, discussions with citizens relative to movement of this city, citizens are not just heard, but our input is factored in. Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is an executive session. Need a motion.
Mr. President,
Ms. Chichester,
I motion that we go into executive session.
can you read that for me?
And speak into the mic, please.
To consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, or the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee, official, licensee, or a regulated individual, unless the public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual requests a public hearing.
Mr. President,
Ms. Gaston?
I second.
All right, motion to go into executive session by Ms. Chichester with a second by Ms. Gaston. Any discussion? Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Ms. Zorb,
Yes.
Ms. Gaston,
Yes.
Ms. Chichester,
Yes.
Ms. Alexander,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Underwood.
Yes.
Motion passed, 7-0.
We'll be in executive session. We'll call this meeting back to order. That will bring us to old business.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood.
so the first meeting of the Charter Review Commission will be, oh goodness, February 26th at 6:30 p.m. It's my understanding that council has already nominated Ms. Curitin to be a part of that commission. Is that correct? I would also like to nominate Rayshawn Hicks and Elijah Kelsey, who are both resident electors.
So you're making a motion?
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, yes. I move to nominate Rayshawn Hicks and Elijah Kelsey to be members of the Charter Review Commission.
Mr. President?
Can you spell that? Spell their names?
Yes,
Please.
Elijah is Elijah, and Kelsey is Kelsey. And then Rayshawn is Rashawn, and Hicks is Hicks.
Ms. Chichester.
I second her motion.
Okay. All right, motion by Ms. Underwood, second by Ms. Chichester to nominate Rayshawn Hicks and Elijah Kelsey as the other two required council-nominated members of the Charter Review Commission. Any discussion?
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb.
Ms. Underwood, do you have any type of background or like recommendations of these folks?
I do. Ms. Hicks is, she's lived in North College Hill for a number of years. She also works for the, she's a deputy sheriff with the Hamilton County Sheriff's Department. I am familiar with her because she has worked for the Sheriff's Department for a number of years, and I've known her in that capacity. Mr. Kelsey is a newer resident to the city of North College Hill. I believe he and his wife have lived here for approximately 2 to 3 years. And he is in his 20s. I thought that he would be, because he's younger it would be refreshing to get like a younger viewpoint. He has a master's degree in data analytics, I believe it's called. He is a graduate of the University of Cincinnati. He didn't grow up in North College Hill, but he lives here now. So, and that is Mr. Kelsey.
Mr. President, I asked because I also had someone who requested to be on the committee. Her name is Renee Stiles. As you know, she has a long history of being on council, and she's very familiar with the charter, and I think she'd be a great asset to your charter review committee.
Mr. President,
Ms. Chichester.
do we vote independently or all together for individually? I mean,
I think, Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood.
I'm trying to be politically correct. She hasn't always been kind to when she's posting things online. So that would be my concern about that. But, if you want to nominate her, I think that we just nominate the 3 people and then we just vote independently. That's what I think we should do.
Mr. President,
Mr. Wilson.
so if we do that, are we just going to vote are you going to call each name out for that we're voting for, or are we going to vote for them as a group?
that was my question.
Well, if we have 3 people for 2 spots, we can't vote for them as a group, so.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I have a motion on the floor right now that has 2 names on it for the 2 spots, by Ms. Underwood, by Ms. Chichester. Unless they withdraw that motion, we'll have to move forward with that motion. All right, is there any other discussion regarding the motion? All right, the motion on the floor is to nominate Rayshawn Hicks and Elijah Kelsey to the Charter Review Commission by Ms. Underwood, seconded by Ms. Chichester. Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Ms. Orb,
No.
Ms. Gaston,
Yes.
Ms. Chichester,
Yes.
Ms. Alexander,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Underwood.
Yes,
Motion passed 6-1.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood.
it is also my understanding that the mayor needs to nominate 2 members to the commission. At this time, I would just ask the mayor for the names of the individuals that she would like to appoint to the commission, please.
Mr. President,
Madam Mayor.
that would be Kim Newman and Siobhan Hall.
Can you spell those?
Kim, KIMNEWMAN. Siobhan is CHAVON. Hall, HALL.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood.
I'm not sure if we need to make a motion to add them to the commission or not, or because it's up to the mayor to add them.
Yeah, it's the mayor's choice.
Okay, so I believe we have the 7 members then. I think Ms. Kathy Curitan, Ms. Rayshawn Hicks, Mr. Elijah Kelsey, Ms. Kim Newman, Ms. Siobhan Hall, myself, and Mayor Nichols.
All right. Any other old business?
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood.
I would just like to say to anyone who's listening out there in TV land, if you are, just because you're not a member of the Charter Review Commission, does not mean you cannot come to the meetings and participate or ask questions, or whatever it is. This is a public meeting. It will be held in this building. It will be recorded. So I encourage anyone who wants to come to please come if you have some input or insight as to, something in the charter that we may need to address. So,
Thank you, Ms. Underwood. Any other old business?
yes, Mr. President.
Ms. Underwood?
We need to make it easier for council. I know that we had talked about this in my meeting, my committee meeting. We just needed a place for council that we all have access to, where we can just put our agendas and our meeting minutes. So I would like to move that we direct the city administration to create a shared drive for us to, that way we can just put all of our agendas and all of our meeting minutes in one place. And then I would ask if Mr. Hedger, I'm sorry. It's late. If he could create the folder structure so that, we can all just get those documents in one place, keep them in that place, just to make it easier for all of us. So I know that's kind of a long, drawn-out thing, but, and I think I said motion or move or something in there, and if I didn't,
You did.
okay.
Yep, I've got your motion down to direct administration to create a shared drive for agendas and meeting minutes
And other documents as well.
and other documents.
Mr. President,
Ms. Gaston?
I second.
Motion by Ms. Underwood, second by Ms. Gaston. Discussion.
Mr. President,
Ms.
I
Dixine?
like to encourage you all to do that. I think it's a really easy way to keep track. And it will be 1, 2, 3, since you already all each have a Outlook email. And so I think it's a really easy way to help you with that.
All right, motion on the floor to direct administration to create a shared drive for agendas, meetings, minutes, and other documents by Ms. Underwood, second by Ms. Gaston. Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Ms. Orb,
Yes.
Ms. Gaston,
Yes.
Ms. Chichester,
Yes.
Ms. Alexander,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Underwood.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you. Any other old business? All right, we'll move to new business.
I'm sorry. Business, please. Just real quick.
How long do I have to pause?
I know. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Ms. Dixine.
Mailboxes, please. You need to empty them.
All right, thank you. New business.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood.
once upon a time, there was a training that new elected officials could attend, and Ms. Orb and I attended the training, and if she could help me with this information, I would like to, if administration can figure out where that training is, and so we can send council members to that training.
Mr. President.
How about Ms. Zorb first?
So the training that we attended was after we were elected, so it comes up after elections. So it's probably, the training that we went to is probably not being offered right now. It's put on by the state.
Oh, okay.
Mr. President.
I have Ms. Dixine next.
I was able to find a training for you all, and I was going to, that's one of the things that when I reached out to you this week, is if I could schedule those online trainings. It's you can go through it as you need to, and it's broken down over 3 hours. So if you did like half an hour, maybe every other one of your meetings or something, I was trying to work it out with you. I had already contacted, and the price, I wanted to let you all, once I talked to her about it, the price is a group price. We're already a member of the Center for the Local Government, and it's new orientation for council members. I went and looked at it. It really is good, and it's offered at pace for you all. You could do it as a part of your meetings, and if you do it together, I could get the group price and go from there.
Ms. Chichester?
Do you know the name of the training?
New orientation for council members.
Is that the one I already did?
No.
Nope, okay.
I'm sorry, I want to make this clear. If you do it individually, you have to pay for it individually. It's $295 individually. It's $895 for a group. So you save significantly, which is why I was proposing that we do it together, or you guys do it together.
Mr. President,
Ms. Alexander?
are you saying that we have to pay for it?
No.
Oh, okay. So I was like,
No, you'd be paying for it
Okay.
out of your council budget.
okay, got you.
But I am encouraging you all to kind of embrace the training together so that you can get the group rate as opposed to
Gotcha.
trying to pay for it
Thank you.
individually out of your council budget. That's what I'm encouraging.
Makes sense.
And I am in the process of emailing him back. I had emailed Ms. Underwood because I felt it fitting in one of her committees, and I wanted to talk about what she thought that looked like because she has a lot on her agenda. And then I was going to go to Mr. Graver.
Okay.
Mr. President, I also have some
Ms. Underwood?
new business, if we're finished talking about that. So I'm blaming the late hour as well as the fact that I haven't had dinner as to why I'm having trouble right now. So the
Training?
the commission who wants to meet with all of council.
Planning?
Planning
Planning
Commission.
Commission. May I suggest that we meet with them on the 24th?
Mr. President,
Ms. Dukestein?
I'd like to remind council that if you're meeting on the 24th, you may have a shared time and date or maybe staggered with Budget and Finance, because I know she was trying to schedule that as well. Mondays are reserved for council. So I think if you gave them a good hour, they would be appreciative.
Okay. So I'm asking my colleagues if you're amenable to that, and if you are, what time, so we can, just honor their request.
Mr. President,
Mr. Wilson?
Ms. Chichester, what time is the meeting for the 24th?
Well, it depends on what time now Ms. Underwood would like to start hers, and then we,
I'm just saying, if we can, we might as well just stick it in there, kill two birds with one stone.
Sure.
Mr. President,
Ms. Orb?
I think it's a good idea that we meet with the Planning Commission. They've been asking for several months, so I think we need to get that underway. I'm good with the 24th. My schedule allows it.
Me too.
Mr. President,
Ms. Gaston?
my schedule does not allow for me to be present before 6:30 on the 24th.
Okay, so can you be present I'm sorry, Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood?
Ms. Caston, can you be here at 6:30?
Yes.
Okay, so it sounds like we need to start at 6:30. I'm waiting to hear from everybody else, and I just need everybody else to
I don't hear
say-
anybody saying no, so
Well,
I was looking at something else, but
I know they'll wait till I'm done pausing and then they'll speak up, but that's all right.
We would never do that to you, Mike.
All right, so meet with Planning Commission Monday, 2/24 at 6:30.
so Ms. Zorb, do you think, I'm sorry, Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood?
Ms. Zorb, do you think an hour or an hour and a half?
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb?
I would shoot for an hour and a half.
Okay, so 6:30 to 8?
Mr. President,
Ms. Chichester?
then I would move Budget and Finance to the 25th, because then we
Okay.
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood?
That wasn't me.
I'm sorry, Ms. Dukestein?
I would say that there are 12 items, and if you give them a robust amount of conversation, you could break it up into 2 meetings, an hour each, as opposed to extending, and that will give, because budget and finance needs to meet as well. And I want to give them the appropriate amount of time to kind of fluidly discuss each one of those issues. They're not opposed to meeting multiple days. They've been requesting probably about since mid-January.
Mr. President?
Ms. Zorb?
Ms. Underwood, I believe we put in a request to have them prioritize their list, so I think if we address it that way, we should be good.
And, you know, and I am under no illusion, Mr. President, I apologize.
Ms. Underwood?
I am under no illusions that by any stretch of the imagination, we're going to get through everything in an hour and a half. I would love if that would be possible, but I know that it is not. And I am trying, and I'm making sure I'm honest with the rest of my colleagues that it will not. But I do want to honor their request. They are requesting to meet with all of council. So, you know, we'll get through, you know, we've asked them to prioritize through Ms. Zorb. So we'll try to address the priorities, but I just want to kind of hear what they, you know, want to tell us.
So does that mean we're moving it to 6:30 to 7:30?
No,
No,
6:30
okay.
to
All right.
8.
Okay.
Mr. President,
Ms. Alexander?
can we get it all, both done in one meeting? I mean, meeting the next day, you know, is just a lot in one month.
Mr. President.
Everything going on. I'd rather just knock it off in one evening as opposed to coming Monday
And then right
and
back
then
Tuesday.
coming back Tuesday, and then the next Monday we're right back to council, and yeah.
Mr. President?
Ms. Dukestein?
That's why I was suggesting that you think about an hour to give budget and finance so you could have one night. Since you're not going to finish in one night, even if you focus on the priorities that Ms. Zorb is asking them, you're still probably going to have to schedule another additional meeting. So spacing it out and giving, it just keeps you from having to come back multiple days.
Okay, so Mr. President,
Yeah, we need a motion to have a meeting, so.
okay, I just want to, so are we suggesting maybe the commission meeting from 6:30 to 7:30, and then budget and finance from 7:30 to 8:30? Okay, so Mr. President. I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Hedger, real quick.
Just a point of order, we would just need a special council meeting. The budget and finance chair can call their own meeting.
Correct.
To have at 7:30, so we don't need to make a motion for that, just to be clear.
Okay. All right,
So,
And I got your doc.
did you make a motion?
so, okay, he said, I'm telling you, this is because I haven't had dinner. So you're saying we need a motion for the
For the special council meeting with the
special
planning
council
commission?
meetings? Okay, so, Mr. President, I move that we have a special council meeting on Monday, February 24th, 2025, from 6:30 PM to 7:30 PM for the planning commission to address council about their recommendations.
Okay.
Mr. President,
Ms. Chichester?
I second her motion.
Motion by Ms. Underwood, second by Ms. Chichester to have a special special council meeting. I was writing something completely, give me a second. All right. Normally I can write and talk, but not on that one. All right. Motion is to have a special council meeting on February 24th, that is next Monday, 6:30 to 7:30, to meet with the planning commission. Motion was by Ms. Underwood, second by Ms. Chichester. Any discussion? I think we've had enough. Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Ms. Sorb?
Yes.
Ms. Gaston?
Yes.
Ms. Chichester?
Yes.
Ms. Alexander?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Underwood?
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Mr. Hedger.
I just want to confirm with council if everyone is declining their notice on their door for a special council meeting.
Correct. I am.
Yes, I am.
I decline.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other new business?
Mr. President?
Ms. Zorb?
I would like to make a motion to authorize payment of a survey software out of council's budget, out of the operating expenses for the amount not to exceed $400 out of line item 101.702.524200.
Mr. President,
Ms. Gaston?
I second.
Motion by Ms. Zorb, second by Ms. Gaston to authorize payment of survey software out of council budget not to exceed $400.
Yes, sir.
And what was that line item again?
101-702-524-200. That's the operating expenses line.
Okay, that motion was by Ms. Zorb, second by Ms. Gaston. Any discussion?
Mr. President.
Ms. Alexander?
Well, one question, what is this software for? And second, is there another option, any comparison that could be possibly cheaper or free? That's my question.
Ms. Zorb?
So it is SurveyMonkey. It has already been put out, and we already have data that is waiting to be retrieved once we pay the fee. So there are already a substantial number of replies that we've gotten from this software. It was unbeknownst to the person who put out the software that there was a fee involved once you got to a certain amount. The good news is we got to a certain amount. We got the replies that we were looking for. So there's data out there that will be released once we pay the fee. And it is a year-long subscription, so we can put out whatever surveys we want in the future.
Mr. Sargent.
The part of what I think the citizens are asking for is so that they get input into what we do. And I think this is part of the solution to that.
Mr. President.
Ms. Chichester?
So we all have access to Microsoft Office, which has a free option of forms. So great, we have the responses. Great, we have the input. But I think we were aware that this was going to cost in the beginning, and we stated that we should follow the free option. So are you saying, Ms. Zorb, that we did something and now we're coming back to the city and asking them to pay for it when there was a free option that was told about in the beginning before putting that out?
Mr. President?
Ms. Zorb?
I'm really asking for someone else, so I'd kind of like Ms. Gaston to answer this question, because I don't know the answers.
You made the
Mr.
motion,
President.
so I was just.
You're right.
So-
I did.
Okay.
Mr. President, what Ms. Zorb is referring to was a SurveyMonkey that was put out the last council meeting. We discussed having a survey that could have a QR code and a link so that citizens can answer various questions from anybody here on council. The reason for SurveyMonkey is because it's something that people are familiar with. It's the first one that comes to mind. A lot of businesses use it, Cincinnati Children's Hospital, Hamilton County DDS, and it's something that people are comfortable with. Once we hit a certain amount, I did reach out to the mayor and Ms. Dukestein about the fee and what to do about that. So, yes, there is a free one, but it was after we began to collect the data that I realized, oh, yep, there is a free option. But I would like to not lose that data. And again, what SurveyMonkey does that Microsoft does not do is it correlates it, it puts it in the pie charts and everything, and it gives us a lot of really good information.
Mr. President,
Ms. Chichester?
Forms, Microsoft Office Forms does put it in a pie chart. It does help the data transfer to Excel sheet. I thought, and I think at our last come by moment at the last council meeting, and my council members could tell me if I'm wrong, we thought we were all going to have input on the questions. Were anyone else consulted on the questions? Both. There was a process and it wasn't followed. I'm sorry. So the question from the audience was, is it questions or calls? The questions are fine in that verbiage, but in the format is the problem.
All right, so we're straying off from the fact that there's a motion on the floor to pay $400 to get the SurveyMonkey software. Is there any other discussion regarding that?
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood?
so who created I want to know the name of the individual who created it.
Mr. President,
Ms. Gaston?
it was I who created it after a council meeting.
Okay. All right. I'm good. All right.
Mr. President,
Ms. Duxine?
I would just like to add, I know that it is uncomfortable to lose data, and I do think that the survey could potentially be a way to leverage what the citizens want to hear. But Microsoft Office does match the capabilities of SurveyMonkey, and it is something that we already pay for. You are paying for an additional year membership, so if there are subsequent surveys, I don't have any skin in the game, but I just would encourage you to move the survey over to a vehicle that we already pay for and maybe ask people to apply for that. And it's no shot against any one individual. It's just that if we're being good stewards of our finances, we really would not want to pay for something twice.
Mr. President,
Ms. Orr?
I just want to point out that we spend money on stuff that isn't good stewards, in my opinion, all the time. You're right, we do, but we don't have full control over that. So this is something we do have control over. It's less than $400. I believe that I know how I feel about surveys. I feel like I get surveyed out. So now we're going to ask people to fill out another survey so that who knows if the same people are going to even reply. We have the data. We can use the data we already have, and we can get the answers that the citizens have given us.
Mr. President.
Mr. President. I know.
So, hold on. So, I'm supposed to control debate, so I need to know if anybody else who hasn't spoken on the matter has something they need to say before I go to the next person. And then I'm going to go to Ms. Underwood, I'm going to go to Ms. Chichester, and then I'm going to call the vote. So,
Mr. President.
Mr. Wilson?
So, my opinion, and we're not at that stage yet. We have, the survey was created, which is a great idea. We want the information, but we're just not at that stage yet to really evaluate and implement the information that's coming out of that survey. We still have to get past the financial part of the whole situation for the survey. So I just think that that information that we already collected is not. Win or lose, we'll get it back. So I believe it's just a waste of money.
Is it my turn?
Ms. Underwood?
I would like to say that I appreciate the fact that Ms. Gaston took the initiative to create the survey, and it is coming out of council's budget. And what I will also say is that I don't have an extra minute of time in my day to create that. So while I can appreciate the other options that we have, time is invaluable. It is priceless. I appreciate the fact that she spent her time doing this. I would encourage my colleagues to respect that. It is coming out of council's budget, is not coming out of the city's budget. And so I would encourage us to honor our colleagues in that way.
Ms. Chichester.
Mr. President, I've thanked Ms. Gaston's numerous times for her work, her input, her enthusiasm. But I just think if any other council member on this panel sitting here would have done something, spent city's money, and then came back and asked council to pay for it, we would be ridiculing instead of asking for the correct process to be upheld.
Mr. President.
Hold on.
Mr. President.
You always say sorry, but you continue to do it. So I would request that you stop. Thank you. Finish, Ms. Chichester.
Yes. So we agreed to do the survey in lieu of planning the town hall at this moment because we could not have the town hall anytime soon.
Correct.
So it was Ms. Gaston's idea to do the survey, and we all as council agreed to. But we also agreed to talk about how we would put it out to get it on the city website. In current form, it has not been posted as the city website. So it's technically, it's not official city business. So technically, yes, she did it, she put it out. We respect the citizens, we respect their input, but we have to respect the rules that we set forth for each other. No, things have been done in the past, yes, but if we say we're going to change and we are going to stand on it, we have to stand on it for everyone. That's just my take on the matter.
Mr. President.
I said that we were going to stop after Ms. Chichester, so that is where we're going to stop. We have a motion on the floor to authorize payment of $400 for the survey software out of council budget, line item 101.702.524.200. Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Ms. Zorn,
Yes.
Ms. Gaston,
Yes.
Ms. Chichester,
No.
Ms. Alexander,
No.
Mr. Wilson,
No.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Underwood.
Yes.
Motion passed 4-3.
Any other new business?
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood.
I move that we adjourn.
Mr. President,
Mr. Wilson.
I second.
Motion by Ms. Underwood, second by Mr. Wilson to adjourn tonight's meeting. Any discussion? Mr. Hedger, please call the roll.
Ms. Zorn,
Yes.
Ms. Gaston,
Yes.
Ms. Chichester,
Yes.
Ms. Alexander,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Davis, Ms. Underwood.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Council, just as another
This
friendly
meeting is adjourned.
reminder- Oh, I'm sorry.